Sam, thank you for taking the time to talk to us here at Turning Point Academy at our Educator Summit. We're so glad
Yes,
you're here.
it's exciting to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. So I want to know, why did you get into being so passionate about homeschooling? What was the origin story of that?
Yeah, well, the origin story really is I never considered that I would be a homeschooler. Obviously, that's ridiculous. And then my son went to first and second grade in a school where we moved to the area for the schools. They were like the good public schools, and I didn't feel like they were getting his education done. I felt like there was a lot of other stuff that was coming home that had nothing to do with education. That was sort of just the byproduct of him going to school that I didn't like. But at the same time, he wasn't getting an education. And I can't tell you exactly what I thought an education was, but it's sort of like the Supreme Court justice who said, I can't describe to you exactly what porn is, but I know it when I see it. And I knew that this wasn't education, and not by my book. So I brought him home. I said to my husband, I think that if I fail at homeschooling him, he'll still be better off because of that ancillary stuff that was coming out of the school. And then I would love to tell you that I never looked back. That's not true. I was filled with self-doubt. I felt completely inadequate to the task, which is a little bit absurd because I'm an educated person. And so I laugh when parents say to me, I could never homeschool. And I go, you graduated high school, right? And they're like, oh yeah, I got my diploma. I'm like, but you feel like you can't teach a second grader. Like, what does that say about your education? And so that's become my mission, is to sort of point out this weird hypocrisy that we have about education in the United States.
Well, I think it's something that has kind of become ingrained, that parents are then taught that they shouldn't be the primary educator, or that they need to have their own degree to even be qualified.
Right.
And what is your advice to parents to really break them out of that mindset?
Well, I brought my book, Parents Guide to Homeschool, and this is exactly why I wrote this book. But I will tell you, in the state of Illinois right now, they're considering a bill that would require parents to have a college degree to home educate, which is absurd because the state of Illinois does such a terrible job of educating its students. So for them to put any restrictions or regulations onto a parent that decides to home educate, when home educated kids score roughly 20 to 25% better on standardized tests than public school children, is kind of like the pot calling the kettle black. Not even the pot calling, like, it's ridiculous. So my encouragement to parents is this: you have to take a step back from the entire operation. So they had you for 13 years, and in those 13 years, they trained you to think that you were incompetent, which is why you feel that you're incompetent to do something that you have no idea what you're talking about, right? We have no idea when we say, I can't educate, I can't homeschool my kids. I ask parents, I say, well, what do you mean by homeschool? And they're like, well, I don't know. But you so willingly admit that you're incapable of doing something that you really don't know what you're talking about. Like, let's first define our terms. What do we mean homeschool? And so when we do that and we start looking at, well, what really constitutes an education? It's not calculus. It's not the hard stuff that we're thinking. It's actually parenting. That's what education is. And education is the process by which a child becomes an adult. And we want a good adult. So it's qualified, right? It's not just any adult,
But a good
which
one.
is what the schools will accept. They will accept any adult. And in fact, they don't even shepherd children into adulthood. That's why children are graduating college unable to hold a job, much less have a career. And they have a new term called adulting because they haven't been taught to be adults. And so they have to learn these new things like balancing a checkbook or whatever, or opening a bank account. And it's like, oh, I'm adulting today because I've never been taught to do this. And so that's the whole point.
Yeah, and it's so important that you have a whole book about this that is encouraging people to homeschool, because homeschooling is, like you had said, it's just like parenting. And we all know how to learn because we continuously learn. We continuously have opportunities to learn. And so it's really, I think, instilling that curiosity in kids and creating an environment that fosters that.
Yes, and it's not even instilling curiosity, right? Because curiosity is built in. That's part of the programming that God instills in children, right? They come curious. But when we send them into an institution, we kill that curiosity. And that's why school can be so detrimental for children is because, and there are so many children that don't fit the school model of education. And so if you have a child that's exceedingly artistic, the school will message to that child, you're kind of worthless because you need to do math. Math is important. Art is not important. Music is not important, right? And of course, that's not true. And so as parents, we need to focus on the giftings of the individual child. You know, we were talking earlier about the political climate, and I believe that part of the problem with our political climate and the way that we've been siloed, in a sense, has to do with our schools. And conservative parents and Christian parents have to understand that government schools have religion and they have political leanings. Yep. And you can't avoid that. So those two things that are ingrained in the schools, because education is not neutral. Education cannot be neutral. You're playing with fire. If you want to have a lifelong relationship with your child, you're playing with fire, sending them to an alternate authority, arguably a superior authority, right? Because the school tells the child, we are the authority. Your parents don't have authority, don't have jurisdiction over us. We have jurisdiction over them. That's why they send the permission slip home for you to sign. They tell you to sign the permission slip. It should be the other way. The parent should say, oh, you want to take my child on a field trip? Okay, sign a permission slip.
Yeah, because parents are ultimately entrusted with their children.
Right.
To raise them, to teach them, to educate them.
Right.
And to care for them. And we've just kind of given that up to schools.
We have, yes. It's very sadly to me that we've been sort of bamboozled, I believe. And it's funny because it's a conflict of interest. Who's trained us to do this? The educators. So the educators have trained us to cede our power to the educators. Hello. Does anybody see the conflict here? So it's just it takes discernment, which we aren't teaching in school anymore. Do you know we teach in school pros and cons lists? Have you ever done a pros and cons list?
I have.
That's chaos. Because when you do a pros and cons list, you make a list of pros and a list of cons, and then what?
One list is longer than the other, and
I
that's
don't
one
know.
that wins.
But that's not the way it should be.
Right.
You should always do a priorities list. It's a single list. And then you check against the first priority. And it's a binary choice. It's either yes or no, up or down. And so if it fits the first priority, then you want to check the second priority. Is it still good, right? Until it doesn't hit anymore. And then you have your decision. Is it worth that? Is it worth giving up that priority for this thing? But we don't teach that in school. So then we have children who are confused. And now they're so confused that the schools are imposing on them this gender ideology, this trans ideology.
So do you think, obviously homeschooling is such a wonderful opportunity and resource for parents to actually take back control of educating their children, but do you think that we can reform education in a way to bring it back to what it used to be and to make it a environment where they can actually learn critical thinking?
So it's quite a loaded question, because back to what? Because whatever came before got us here. So I don't know how far back we can go. When it was a one-room schoolhouse, parents never ceded their authority. They hired the teacher. They supervised the teacher. They heard firsthand if the teacher taught something that they didn't like, they were down there. That teacher could be fired. They'd find another teacher. And basically the teachers in the one-room schoolhouse taught reading and writing, all with the Bible, and some ciphering, right? Which was basic arithmetic. You want to go all the way back to that? Like, yeah, I suppose I'd be on board with that. But right now, we are hiring our government to train us. And that's a conflict of interest in the United States, where the government is of the people, by the people, and for the people, wherein the power resides with the people, because the government is now training us. No. You guys don't have the power. We have the power. We get to tell you what to do, how to spend your time, how to spend your money. Right? And we're seeing the results of that. It's very sad to me.
Yeah. Well, the theme of our conference this weekend is transformational learning, educating minds, hearts, and souls, because we see that as the future of education is in the main priority.
Yes.
In your opinion, what is the best way to foster an environment that has truly transformational education?
Yeah, the way, really, if you want to talk about the way to save our schools, they need to be teaching character. And the only way you can really teach character is with the Bible. Because there are moral laws that are true and they are never false, right? They are absolute. And so when you give the child that kind of truth, you engender in the child a desire for more truth, and then you have a lifelong learner. Then you have a child that is self-motivated to learn. If you don't teach character, it's very difficult to get any academics in the child because there's no point. Why? Why learn something that is a little bit challenging? It's not fun, right? Although learning should be fun, I believe that all learning should be fun. It should be fun because it's challenging and it's an accomplishment that is worthwhile. But without character, the child won't understand the value of it. And this is what we see in our schools. This is why we are 40th in the world today. We are the United States of America. We spend more per child than, I believe, every other country, maybe with the exception of Switzerland. And we have abysmal results to show for it because we have left character formation completely out of the equation. We don't even do it in church, barely, right? So how are you going to have a moral society without that character? That's why the one-room schoolhouse and the older versions of school all included Bible and character building, because back then the government understood that character was imperative for a constitutionally governed society, right? People will not follow the law because they like the law. They will follow the law because it's a question of morality and character. We've lost that. We've lost virtue. Honor has gone by the wayside. And it's too bad because young men need to understand, and young women, but particularly, I believe, young men need to understand honor and purpose. And in school, we have trained them to take their eye off of purpose and chase money. And I think that's also very dangerous. And now we have a whole generation plus of young men who are without purpose in their lives. And they're making a lot of money, but they don't understand why. It's because it's not terribly fulfilling. Sure, a deal's great, you do a deal, whatever, but where are they going to be in 10, 15 years, 20 years?
Yeah, well, I appreciate you so much saying that that virtue is character is what we need to be teaching, because here at Turning Point Academy, we think that is imperative,
of course,
to education, and we are so excited for...
I didn't even read the cheat sheet. We're just on the same page.
Yes. And we're so thankful that all these educators that are here, whether they're homeschool families or if they are Christian school teachers or even public school teachers, that they all have the same desire to really point people to Christ and to really bring back truth, beauty, and goodness into the classroom.
Well, that's what I love about you guys. That's why you're killing it. That's why you're doing what you're doing. And people see value in that. And it's funny because it's true, right? Mm-hmm. And when parents get a glimpse of that, like I said to you, when I pulled my son out of school, I didn't know what was wrong. Mm-hmm. I just knew it wasn't right? And then I pulled my son out of school and I started down this path. It took me a little while, and I figured out, because somebody showed me what was right, I figured out, that's what we're going for. We're looking for truth, beauty, and goodness, basically. And so that's what you're offering parents, and you're showing them that vision of what it can be for their child. And God bless you for doing that, because parents need that.
Thank you. And thank you for the ways that you are standing firm in your beliefs and really encouraging people, especially parents, to homeschool their children and stand for this.
Yeah. Well, I'm also working, if you don't mind my saying.
Of course.
I formed Parents Demanding Justice Alliance. Mm-hmm. It's called the Parents Demanding Justice Alliance. We have a press conference on the steps of the Capitol next week. And we have a dossier that we've compiled with over 33 parents who have been unduly targeted by their schools, by the school boards and their city councils and local law enforcement, all based on the Merrick Garland characterization of parents who were invested in their schools and in their children's welfare, characterizing them as domestic terrorists. And that changed the narrative in the nation and made parents feel like by the way, it was a whole sort of campaign of intimidation for parents to get them out of the schools. And so we're fighting back because we need parents involved in the schools. We need parents on the school boards. I think every school should have a board that's made up entirely of parents because those parents are invested and they need to be invested. We need to make parenting great again. We need to bring the parents back. And I think that the country is ready for that. I think that people are waking up, that we've taken our eye off the ball, and it's time to take back our culture.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.